The library was Oliver Thorne's universe, towering shelves groaned under the weight of stories he'd spun, epic fantasies, tender romances, mysteries that kept readers breathless until dawn. His name once danced on the lips of publishers and booksellers. Words flowed through him like a mighty, unstoppable river, carving worlds onto blank pages. But now, sitting before his grand oak desk, Oliver felt only a crushing emptiness. The inkwell was full, the parchment pristine, yet his mind was a desert. The river had run dry. He picked up his favorite fountain pen, its silver body cool and familiar, but no sentences formed, no characters whispered, only silence echoed in the cavern of his imagination. Panic, cold and sharp, began to prickle beneath his skin. Weeks bled into months. Oliver tried everything. He reread classics until his eyes burned, hoping to reignite a spark. He walked through bustling city streets, listening to fragments of conversation, but the noise felt alien, meaningless. He traveled to windswept cliffs and silent forests, seeking inspiration in nature's grandeur, but the beauty remained locked away, inaccessible. His once tidy study became a battlefield of crumpled paper, each failed attempt a monument to his vanishing gift. Publishers' inquiries turned into concerned whispers, then faded away entirely. The world outside his window continued, vibrant and loud, while inside, Oliver sat imprisoned in a soundless, wordless cell. The fear wasn't just a failure, it was the terrifying sense that his very soul, the essence of who he was evaporating. One gray afternoon, a final notice arrived, not from a publisher, but from the bank. The grand house, filled with books and memories, was no longer his. The words on the eviction notice were stark, brutal, and utterly clear. He had nowhere to go, no income, and no words left to fight with. Numbly, he packed a single, worn leather satchel, a change of clothes, a small notebook, still stubbornly blank, and his father's old pocket watch. Leaving the library felt like tearing off a limb. He locked the door, the click echoing with dreadful finality, and stepped into the rain-slicked street, a stranger in his own life. Carrying only the heavy weight of silence, he walked without direction, a leaf blown by an indifferent wind. The city's sharp edges eventually softened into rolling hills, then dense, ancient woodland. Exhaustion finally pinned him to the mossy floor beneath a canopy of whispering oaks. He slept the dreamless sleep of the utterly spent. Dawn woke him not with a burst of inspiration, but with the simple, undeniable demands of his body. Thirst, hunger, cold. Survival became his only narrative. He followed a trickle of water to a clear stream, drank deeply, the cold liquid shocking his system. He found wild berries, their tartness exploding on his tongue, a sensation so raw and immediate it momentarily pierced the fog of his despair. He gathered dry twigs, his clumsy fingers fumbling to spark a fire, focusing entirely on the physical act of creating warmth. The crackle of flames, the scent of wood smoke, the ache in his muscles, these were his only sensations. Pushing the gnawing void of his lost words slightly aside, following the stream led him to a small, secluded valley. Nestled beside the water was a humble cottage, smoke curling peacefully from its chimney. Hesitantly drawn by the primal need for human connection he hadn't realized still existed within him, Oliver approached an elderly woman, her face a map of kindness, answered his timid knock. She didn't ask for explanations, only gestured him inside to the warmth. Her granddaughter, Elara, a girl of about 7 with wide, curious eyes, watched him silently. Oliver soon understood why Elara didn't speak. Her world was one of profound quiet, yet she communicated volumes. She pressed a warm bowl of stew into his hands, her small fingers brushing his with startling gentleness. Later, she sat beside him on the sun-warmed step, not demanding conversation, simply sharing the quiet companionship of the afternoon light filtering through the trees. Her presence was a balm, wordless and accepting. Elara possessed an old, stubby piece of charcoal one afternoon. As Oliver sat staring listlessly at the flowing stream, she sat beside him and began to draw on a smooth, flat stone. Not complex pictures, but simple, powerful lines. The strong curve of a fish leaping, the jagged energy of lightning, the soft roundness of the moon. She pointed from her drawing to the real thing, the fish flashing silver in the water, distant storm clouds gathering, the pale moon already visible in the twilight sky. She didn't need labels or descriptions. She captured the feeling, the essence. Oliver watched. Mesmerized, he saw the joy on her face as the charcoal moved, the pure, unadulterated connection between her perception and the mark she made. She wasn't writing words. She was translating the world's raw beauty directly onto the stone. It was communication stripped bare, profound in its simplicity. He felt something long frozen within him begin to thaw, not with a roar, but with a quiet, persistent drip. Days turned into weeks. Oliver helped split wood, mend the cottage fence, tend the small vegetable garden. He listened to the wind in the pines, the gurgle of the stream, the crackle of the fire. He watched the intricate dance of sunlight and shadow on the forest floor. He learned the silent language of Elara's smiles and gestures, the comforting rhythm of the grandmother's daily tasks. The desperate need to force words onto paper slowly dissolved. One evening, sitting by the fire, Elara placed a small, blank notebook and a pencil beside him on the table. The one from his satchel. He stared at it, not with dread, but with a strange, quiet curiosity. He picked up the pencil. He didn't try to craft a story. Instead, almost without thought, he began to sketch the scene before him. The dancing flames, the cat curled on the hearth, the kind lines of the grandmother's face as she mended a sock, the way Elara's hair caught the firelight. It was clumsy, childlike, but it felt real. He wasn't writing about life. He was simply letting it flow through him onto the page, unfiltered by the pressure to find the perfect words. Oliver knew he couldn't stay in the valley forever. The world, with its demands and complexities, still existed, but he was no longer the man who had locked himself away in despair. With profound gratitude, etched deeper than any words could express, he said goodbye to the grandmother, and Elara, her small hand squeezed his. A silent farewell filled with understanding. He walked back towards the town, not with a grand novel bursting in his mind, but with a quiet heart and the small, filled notebook in his pocket. He found a modest room above a baker's shop, the smell of rising dough a constant, comforting companion. He bought fresh ink and clean paper this time. He didn't stare at the blank page with terror. He closed his eyes, remembered the feel of moss under his hands, the taste of wild berries, the sound of the stream, the silent warmth of acceptance. He remembered Elara's charcoal capturing the leap of a fish. He dipped his pen. He didn't force a torrent. He started simply, describing the scent of baking bread drifting up through the floorboards, the exact gray blue of the dawn sky outside his small window. The words came slowly, carefully, like shy creatures emerging after a long winter. They weren't grand or elaborate, but they were true. They were born not from a desperate need to prove himself, but from a quiet rediscovery of the world's endless, wordless stories, waiting only to be felt. And then, perhaps, softly spoken. Oliver Thorne had run out of words, but in the silence, he had finally learned how to listen, and the stories, in their own time, were beginning to whisper back.